So take a letter, Maria, address it to my wife. Say I won't be coming home, gotta start a new life. We'll take a letter, Maria, address it to my wife. Send a copy to my lawyer, gotta start a new life. You've been many things, but most of...
Well, the first session, I was not really to do the session. I was first hired just to kind of, I knew where all the body was buried in the studio. And so I was going to assist their engineer, Jimmy Miller. And he didn't show. He didn't show up. And so about 8 hours before that, they told me, you're going to do it. And I said, oh, you know. I was the only one in the control room. And so I was basically, all I was saying, rolling. And then when they thought they had it, they'd all look up here like that, you know, at me. And I said, I think we need one more. Or I'd say, that's it. Come listen. And every time they come listen, they loved it. We started at 6 at night. I was doing double sessions that week. I was playing on R.B. Greaves' album session. You remember Take a Letter, Maria? We were finishing his album, and so I was in there playing from 10 in the morning till 5:30. And so then they were stuffing food down me, so I could start with the Stones at 6. Most of them went to around 12 or 1. And we did one song a night. First one we did was Brown Sugar, and then Wild Horses, and then You Gotta Move. But the Brown Sugar had kind of been written earlier, and but they'd never recorded them. But kind of the reason they were here was Keith. He always wanted to come here. He thought this studio, after he got here and started where he realized it was probably the best studio he'd ever been in.
The sound was in my head before I even got there. And then, of course, when that actually lives up to it and beyond, you know, then, you know, you're in rock and roll heaven, man. You got to move. You got to move.
And you see that board right there? That was the console. Paul Kelly had made that. Our guy used to do all the radio stations around town, and the maintenance on the radio station. But he made Fame and made that. 8 inputs is all we had. We'd mix down to a mono or 2-track machine. We had 2 speakers. One was on the left, one was right. And we had one, and it kind of set back in that panel in there. It cut, and it would just aim 2 of them to a stereo. And it was an interesting thing. You know how that porch is out there? Well, you would go by there any time of the day, night, rain, sleet, snow, and there'd be 20 people out on that porch. And people accused us of having orgies. People would drive by and they'd say, what's all them people doing out on that porch? You know, they couldn't figure it out. That's what we were doing. It was the perfect mono out there. When you played it back in here, you didn't hear the toot, you just heard it like a mono out there, and it was the perfect mono. You could hear everything perfectly. We called it the porch test. Have you ever seen a twin amp with JBLs in it? Well, he had that on 10. Not 9, 8, 7, 6, it was 10. And I couldn't ask him to cut it down. I couldn't ask him. So I remember I started sweating it because it was tearing up my front end on the console, and I was getting nothing but distortion. And we was cutting the first song, and I started practicing my speech to him about we're going to have to call the session off. Thank God I didn't have to do it. I went back in the back, and I remember Paul Kelly, who I couldn't find that day. maintenance guy, and he said something about this box, and I didn't know what the hell it was. And I went and found it in a cabinet, and it was like he had made it and put it together and everything. And this was what we call a bump box. So I went out and I found there was 2 mic connections in and an out. And so I put it in the room, and it still didn't help with the door shut. It was so loud. I was just to the point of tears. I said, well, this is it. So I hooked it up, came walking back in here, and when I hit this door here, there was the perfect brown sugar sound that was on this brown sugar. And there it was. I said, thank you, Jesus.
We left on a high with Brown Sugar, man. You know, I mean, we knew we had, one of the best things we'd ever done.
The thing about Brown Sugar, it had this sound. It was quite distorted. It was really funky, you know. That was the whole idea of it.
And I got into it with Jagger at one point. We got nose to nose. He was saying he was hearing a noise in this left speaker up here. And I told him when he first got here, I said, let me explain something to you guys. And I made it real clear. I said, this speaker has got a noise in it, but it's not going to tape. It's not going on tape. You're just hearing it. It's like a crackle. Well, he kept bitching about it. I mean, after every song, finally at the end, I just stopped, got right to say, I said, hey, buddy. I said, I want to tell you something. I said, I done explained to you this one. I'm going to tell you one more time. Then I went through the whole thing. Me and him were friends after that. And after that, he sent me business. He sent me artists, all kinds of good stuff. So it kind of worked out.
It was a lot of serious work as well. And once we knew the room was tuned to us and we were tuned to the room, then it became, right, let's get as much down to here as we possibly can, I thought it was one of the easiest and rockinest sessions that we'd ever done. I don't think we've been quite so prolific ever. I mean, we cut 3-4 tracks in 2 days, and that for the Stones is going some. I always wanted to go back there and cut more, Then so we ended up in France in a basement doing Exile on Main Street there, but otherwise Exile would have probably been cut in Muscle Shoals, and that politically it wasn't possible. It wasn't allowed in the country at the time, so that was that,